Alright, then the Shogang of the and Yanda Ranjaki and Lamdusi Rimbati Mahashusare and Dine and Chikta Yandu on Jeramawadang Dodeba and the Sue Chik or the Sitma to Shivarawadang.
This morning we looked at the varying stages of trainings for hearers and solitary realizers, and we looked primarily as to, but not exclusively, the presentation of the Vaibhashika and Sautantika.
Nam Dembada, Nam Zumba says Nyungore, and handsome Zambala.
The Chittamatra tenant, a philosophical school, they have, can be divided into those who are true aspectarians and false aspectarians, and they have different presentations.
Nam Demba said the Sundadi Pane, Mitishi Cheramana, Dodebagi. Duro Chirgasene, Delia, Latel Hamena, de Sajurwa, or the Kelena Jibayor, Gasna Lamena, Desana, Dene, Bedi Gunchi race, Bembo the Ripa Gunchi to race, the Nessa Yokopato, Maresachi. Ne, Laje Delane, young San Yokopato, your said, the Cherama, the dirty but in the Sheba Nation, Semzamba, Nam Dembati, and the Kelingore, the Sungore.
The true aspectarians, the Chittamatra subdivision of the true aspectarians, they have a presentation very similar to what we heard earlier from the Vaibhashika and Sautantika, where you have the nirvana. When the nirvana is attained, in that life there's nirvana with remainder, and then following death or paranirvana is the attainment of nirvana without remainder. So this division of Chittamatra is very similar to that of the Vaibhashika and Sautantika.
Now, Uma Semzambada, Uma Ranju Bada, which repeat Rangi Semzambas, Nam Zumba, and repeat Nam Zumbas, Semzam Nam Zumbasiada, Uma Ranju Basiada, Dinner Tinjuba, Conjugata, Yandu Tajumbada, Rangi Tajumitribu, Top Sane, Dinner Young, the Sanji Kopatoya, Chazanda, Mom, and Sanji Kopatoya Yediva Chagurim. Tajumitribu, Top Sane, Dinner Sanji Kopatoya, your age, Chazan.
The second division of Chittamatrans, the false aspectarians, as well as both divisions of the Madhyamaka, the Svatantika and Prasangika, these three all say that a Tavadan Arhat, whether of the hero or solitary realizer type, will go on to attain enlightenment. That is not the end of their journey. They may have achieved their goal, but they will eventually go on to achieve enlightenment, Buddhahood.
So,
if you had a question from earlier?
I'm just really curious about the Vaibhashika and Sautantrika view that the consciousness ceases, because all I can understand the aggregates is the idea of, what do they say is the cause for consciousness to cease, other than just the aggregates cease. It doesn't seem logical when you understand consciousness, that it doesn't produce a result.
So how is it that this? How do the Vaibhashika and Sautantika assert that consciousness ceases? Yeah.
What do they say is the immediate or the direct cause for it to cease?
Okay.
Without it producing any result.
Okay.
풍보 될 땐비게 가사디 셰바 세데 가사 풍보를 땐 오르마도 풍보 맞된 바 셰바 가사치 셰바 샤요 말와 제가 디네자 풍보 거로 균체도 근데 풍보 될 땐비게 셰바디야 균체로 거래서 다 가사디 균치기를 지금 말하려나 다 가사디 균치기를 랍나 디고 말 혼조라 그래서는 다음에 냐디지 톱고고와 신의 다음에 냐디 톱고고라 가사면나 톱칸 가사면나 디네 라면의 톱라요 말와 제자다 이 가사의 균치기 말해서 라면이한테 신의 라면이한테 톱고래라래 다 주어다도 라면이한테 톱고였는데 가사도 여러 배라네 가사도 여 말해라고 디 코로스게 따와래다 코로스게 따와되는 실리고 얼다디 내 탈둑도 코로스 좀 따라래 간에 실리기 나모
It doesn't sit so comfortably with us, but nevertheless, this is their view. The view is that in the life where nirvana with remainder is attained, the aggregates remain that of true sufferings. So when death comes and nirvana without remainder is achieved, those aggregates, which are true sufferings, cease. Therefore, there is the continuum of consciousness ceases, because there is no consciousness that is apart from aggregates. And as these aggregates, which are true sufferings, cease, so too does the continuum of consciousness. And then nirvana without remainder is attained. So whilst the continuum of the aggregates have now been severed, the continuum of the person isn't severed. Why? Because there is a person who has attained nirvana without remainder. That being said, they also wouldn't state, but there is still a person. So if one hears contradiction, then okay, but this is their view. So it's like that.
And could, with that idea of the true cessation remaining without the actual base of a person, would they also say that if the space in the cup could remain without the cup once the cup is destroyed? Would they accept?
So it was said earlier that what they would have to point to as the person is being that final true cessation, which is the nirvana without remainder. So then would they say, so the space that is within a cup, would that remain if the cup were to be destroyed?
Yeah, would they accept?
Okay.
Thank you, Vicky. Ma deve passare ma di sicuro Gansa relego ma di Tabure lego ma di ko tapare lego ko nyangde jibure lego the gansa de yore se yo mare lego ko di gansa jobu da gansa de suma di tapare ko nyangde res jisanda gansa de yore be se ne da yo mare se orda 제가 토고 수료를 내지 시도에 안에 강사 윤체요 마디 강사 되게 토고 오래라다 나 톱나 강사도 요르베스네 요 말해라 거라. 그러서 따와래.
So I didn't get as far as to ask the question, but again, it was clarified by saying they will not say that there is a person, but they will say that nirvana without remainder has been attained. The continuum of the person is severed, so there isn't a person, but the nirvana without remainder has been attained.
So the true cessations don't have a base. The true cessations don't have a base which they belong to. True cessations are emptiness, and that's life.
시스나 그 샤서 시디 요르베스는 진디 요마래. 지나디 요마래라고 그 딱과 곡된 지금마도 요마래라고 봐. 디 코론족이 따와래. 안족이 디 tumbu soto야 망안족이 땡큐 받아 안집에 리비 삼다 제바지도 그 난가 차고 리바 가와요. 난가려. 내가 소토야 말. 다디 가르쳐 버렸으네. 코론족이 간사디 갈로고스나 하면 야들 요디 톱кен 간사도 요 말해라래. 톱ken 간사도 요디 qabla 하면 야들 레요 말해라고. 또 톱ken 간사가 학제배 간사도 요로 봐. 디기다 톱고고로 수 톱고선 학제배 간사 디기 톱고고로 봐. 로와 톱고고로 와. 학제배 간사 톱고고래. 제사디 톱고고연자 간사디 균체lâm 디고 말해. 간사 균체요 말이네. 간사 요 말해서 코로나족에 삼수딜리고래. 제사 간사 균치기 말해서 네 간사 요르베스는 요 말해서 그러다 풍보다 이거 균체 말해서 다 자와 있는 균코랑 체사 말해서 간사 균체요 말해대 이나 사매 균 마체 봐제 사매냐데 토구 오래라래 안다 사매냐데 톱산에 간사도 요르베스는 요 말해라 그래 요 말다 균 자와 있는 요 말다고 균균이 요 말다 디젤 풍부일래야 요 말이야. 균체요 말해라고 그러네. 디 코로나지게 따와래. 셰바 균체기리 풍부 균체기리 해서지. 다 강사 균체기리 별라네 강사 균체기 말해라고 그래. 단 하면야데 톱차도 강사 요르베스네 강사 요 말해라고 그래. 다디 코로나지게 따와래.
The continuum of the aggregates, this has been severed. The continuum of the person has not been severed. But is there a person who has achieved nirvana without remainder? No. So if this sounds contradictory to us, then this would be because we're coming from the perspective of the higher schools. But for them, this is their view. So they say, but this just is how it is. The continuum of the person hasn't been severed, but there is no person. And that wouldn't be contradictory.
안다 하제냐데 바치로바 하제냐데 바디 다 잠니지기네 산지 고마토에 전주 셈냠네 산지 고마토야지 하제냐데 바두 중물이래라 다 되네 하제냐데 바디도 신이야 잠니지 고 전주 셈게 산지 고마토 벌 윤우부 시우로와다 윤우부 시우로와 얘도 안에 고 시에메나 안에 고 체도 제비 누제디기 그디나 고 통고 고 딱바랬음 그랬어 진짜 딱바 했으면 그러 와서 난 딱바 말을 와서 난 주어 질리 거래. 톱찬에 잠니제 곰 장슈sem게 장슈sem바 차여로 와. 산예마도 버디 희예요 말다고. 산예마도 버디 희예 매바래. 매반서 다 산제 고모 토벌로 윤중부 시우로와 지상 개디 남마시베 되는 게 체도지 두제되게 가서 뭐서 아주 라마다 딱 버려셔 댕기리에서 되는 댕기로 와서 안데 가래서는 디워질리 거래지.
This view then of the Vaibhashika and Sarjantika is shared with the true aspectarians, the Chittamachans who are true aspectarians. So then what do they also say about a practitioner who attains nirvana with remainder, but is now striving to become enlightened? So this will be an extensive lifespan where they are striving, having achieved individual liberation, but are now striving to generate bodhicitta and become a Buddha. One may well answer, but this person is permanent then, because of the extensiveness of the lifespan.
ko kaza sangye mato bodo shiya yo martine gi nyandyo jachumbe gi jebu topje dine janshu sembe nyamne janshu sembe jorwa sangye go ba mato bodo shiya yo mares ta ane karshigi de lamna korong gi subu di jingi lapje midang hadan suji ge matongwa jingi lab go res jingi lapje matongwa su go res ta korong gi juba chik korong gi juba kuji tyenje juba tyenje di ma je ane di ma shiwa da dine shiwa tushi nyangali dipiki naba tungyo res chubadiki mato gasa ngone di shigyo markarasane gyunringpo dine na takpa reshasambe takpa kye taksan kye ge nyanga yobansa chidu dushala ya an di taksan ma kye ge chirdu ane karchi wasana korongo kudi lada mina suki matongwa ji jingi lab dine ane korongo chubyo kuchi tuen chubyo kudi ane nyangali dipi tsutun go rejire 아마 그런 게 진일라고 그러지. 그런 게 지겨워. 지 마상 와서 이런 통화요 말 받네. 주버 된 거래서. 주버 되지. 네 주버의 양알에 대비 수된 거래지. 주버디 희고르다. dondaga jesemar nyangale digore jisadi duja namgede kum lama nyangale deba da di chide taksan king ma re che taksan ma ge dondala di chi gore je mare gen di lama di keti namashu gyunri wojune chedu duja di garasne di shiya gyune me takpare she samgre je di takpare she samna kansa gil takpare so taksin ki sona digyo marwa timma ki ge dondala garchi ge relana lame ku korong di jingyelapje korong ge jingyelapje dingi jingdo gi jingyelapje korong duja di ge mathong su gore ane ko duja di ge thongya ge kudi korong jube ku chi tün gore juba chi tün gore je taksin kihen chedu jo duje dige gedina lama shiya mendu takpare sha samgruwa taksin kigruwa jesan duje ge gyula taksin maje ge dondala lami tabshi gari chigo resene korong tingi jingile gi jingile jo korong matong wa su go reje anda matong wa sene korong jubi ko korong jibu jigyan jobu jage jubi ku shi tyenje dene gengo chaje dene gongba sugi namba tyende ande duje gyula 올랑은 라마 딱바르 선배 따진 기야 기가 말이지 디자인 따진 마기에 된다라 아니 공원에 산에 마도 봐도 시에 매바인자 아니 그 진일랍 띵에 진기도 진일랍 두자는 마통 와서 그런 거 주비가 꾸지 된제 아니 그런 소리야 경고다 되는 게 공부 주비가 남아 된 거래지 나도 샘샘 남된 거 그런 거 두시거다 송거래 남디비기 시거로 와야 되는 게
So further, the Chittamachan true aspectarians will say that the practitioner who's achieved nirvana with remainder, but is now determined to generate bodhicitta, and then once they become a bodhisattva and continuing to progress to Buddhahood, here they will not die. So this is all done in one life. However, so as to prevent those that they interact with, their students, from grasping at permanence, thinking this Lama never dies, this teacher never dies, through the aspirant bodhisattva and then the bodhisattva themselves, through their own blessings, they would not be visible, they would not be perceived by anyone at all. Rather, their emanations would interact with others, and they would live and die and so forth. So this is done so as to prevent people or others from grasping at permanence, thinking that this long-lived being must be permanent because they seem to never die. Yes, Palapin.
I have, thank you, Genler, and also appreciate the presentation of the lower schools that you don't often hear. But I have one more question. Do the Prasangika think that or hold that a hero or solitary realizer can actually change to and complete the bodhisattva path without passing into nirvana, without remainder first?
So a hero and solitary realizer at an Arhat level or any level at all?
Solitary realizer,
Arhat, okay. Do they have to pass into?
Can they, do the Prasangika believe that they can enter the Mahayana path without passing into
Nirvana, without parinirvana, okay.
Topukmar, Dangbo Hajay Topsane, Lamenya, the Motowache, and Jamnijukum Tashilamlo Shugayore. Denean, Laje, Nyade Topnea, Gombos or Lamenya de Top, Denea Tashilamlo Shugayore, Nigayorde. I think you believe that Ranjubala, Semzamba Chiba Sunga, the Semzamba Namjumba Sechorva.
The false aspectarian Chittamachans, Svatvantika Madhyamakas, and Prasangika Madhyamakas, all three will say that a hero and solitary realizer, foe destroyer, can either, in that life that they attain Arhatship, enter the paths of the Mahayana, so generate bodhicitta and contrive bodhicitta, or they can die and enter into parinirvana, and thereafter generate the paths of the bodhisattva. So both are possible.
That Catching Lam Yamnichina, San Yoko Contuya, the Digor Mashua. Nadine, Yasa, Kunlo Janju Semda, Di Jambi, Tap, Jinso, you draw down Jibu Kone, Doni, you Dunla, Migbi, Tursum, Gomsum, Shera Rimgi, Jibu Kone, Dawa Jesap to Sone, Doni Mosum no Toana, teaching your Sadangbu, Yishe Top Jings, and Dangme.
Returning to the text at the top of page 26, the uncommon path of the Mahayana. So looking at the first bullet point, moreover, the motivation of bodhicitta includes the efficacious means of generosity and so forth, assisted by the generation of the sequential wisdoms of hearing, reflecting, and meditating, directed towards the meaning of emptiness. By such means, the understanding of the view of emptiness becomes ever more profound, until it is first seen directly, and the exalted wisdom of the first Mahayana ground is attained, and the first accumulation of merit and wisdom amassed over a countless great eon is completed.
Danganzu Tapa Chimbugi Lam Gula Geda Maye Sadi, Geritawarsan, Janjusim Gula Yamata Hore. China Janjusim Gula Geba in the teaching Lam Tobare, Janjusim Gula Yemena, teaching Lam Tugu Mare. 지나다 태진 람데 초람 졸람 통람 고라 밀로람 가이 나네 나뭐 태진 초람 총 초람 태진 초람 토고 그러와 다 태진 초람 톱다 마도 세디 강사 강주길에 장주심 길에 끼고요나 쩌마마인 바 장주심 장주심 쩌마마인 바 길에 끼요나 되는 태진 초람 토고 그래 장주심 쩌마마인 바 끼면나 태진 초람 토고 말아서
to have attained a path of the Mahayana, and there are 5 paths of the Mahayana: path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and normal training of the Mahayana. To achieve that first path, the path of accumulation, the boundary to be crossed is the generation of uncontrived bodhicitta. If uncontrived bodhicitta has not been generated, the practitioner will not have any path of the Mahayana in a continuum. For the practitioner to have the path of the Mahayana, a path of the Mahayana in the continuum, bodhicitta, uncontrived bodhicitta, must be generated.
전주심 gyule wala andangbo jam niji gi gyule wala jitan jam niji gyule wala jitan niji gyule wala nyela kara kugur senang adu deshi sheba na jin korwe dunga dige tonggu wala korwe dunga tongje 강아 안에 동아디게 통하지 동아를 타고도 선배 삼로지 기고로와 지상 거기 동아 저 동아 변에 냐와 이다 둔로 달하다 미다 되네기 콜비 레다 녀모 옹 중위게 그디 나다 동아다 라시레샤 선배 동아디 파 야고 통내 동아들 타고도 선배 동아를 타도게 삼바기 해도 다 타도게 삼바기 해도 디 동아를 타도게 삼바디 소소라라 지고 동아를 타고도 삼바이네 대시 년뇌람나랑 일람네 냠네제디 타바동이 담바 삼바 자르고 그래. 다다데 동화 타고 선배 삼다이도 랑 동화 되바 미디어바나에 현심자 던지 동화 미디어바 랑 대화다 되바 심자 던지 대화 되바 제가 진짜 심자 탐주 동화의 자고도 선배게 거의 동화의 교연 돈 동화들 자고도 선배 삼게도 랑 지보면 심자 탐주 거의 동화의 자고도 선배 삼게도 니지 차고로 봐. 제가 누스진의 니지 검제 되네게 잠바 니지 검되네 니 semja 탐지게 고려 동안을 잡아대야 규다게 군주되면 녀몽바들이 디방와데 탑시데 니제제 semja 탐지 고려 동안을 잡아대 니지긴 있으며 하산남다게 되네게네 되네 게어도 되네 semja 탐지도 고려 동안 다다 좋아라 아는 가랑기 가로서네 콘솔리아 감남 몇번 팀비 최된국으로 최된신보고도 랑게 된발라 랑게 신고고도 제사 랑기 바셰 탐제 세고도 된장 semja 탐지도 게 산여고바 마도반 탐면도 산여고바 토버쇼 셈베게 누시네야 지금 셈발 삼로디 뭐 지기 안에 야도 장장한 저 잠바다 니지 고미하다 데네고 데네 하산 남다고 데네네 semja다 산여고바 토버쇼 셈베게 삼다이도 당번에 전주심 차요 말아 데네 삼로데 야네 야노 장여도 아니 방점 지리야 semja다 산여고바 토버쇼 셈베 삼로디 쥐마마인 바지길에 기여도 데네 전주 셈길에 개발해 데네 태션 솔람 바차바래 식으로.
The entry point then to the Mahayana is a generation of uncontrived bodhicitta. Bodhicitta comes about in dependence on the prior generation of love and compassion. For compassion to be generated, the practitioner has to have realized the sufferings of samsara and their causes. So therefore the training starts out as being very similar to that of those who go on to enter the paths of the Theravada, where they reflect on sufferings and its origins, through reflecting on the sufferings of the lower realms, the suffering of the human realms, and so forth, and their origins, giving rise to a wish to gain freedom or liberation from suffering. To this point, the trainings are the same for all types of practitioner. Where a difference becomes evident is when the determination to gain freedom from suffering arises in the practitioner who will go on to become a bodhisattva. They immediately will be placing their awareness of the need to gain freedom from suffering as to beyond themselves, as all beings need freedom from suffering. All beings long to be freed from the sufferings of samsara, as opposed to I myself have to attain freedom. So having this inclination to look beyond themselves, seeing how all are in that same position, compassion for others can readily arise. And the compassion and love for others will be generated again and again in dependence on recognizing suffering and its causes, giving rise to a wish may all beings be free of suffering and its causes. Compassion then, the meditator will intentionally cultivate so that they get to the point where compassion itself feels insufficient, in the sense of merely being a wish may others be free of suffering and its causes is felt as being insufficient. Rather, they generate the altruistic attitude of universal responsibility, where they take as their own personal responsibility that each being needs to be guided and trained just like they have, so as to gain to understand the suffering and its causes and how to gain freedom from it. This they take as their own personal responsibility. Having generated this altruistic attitude, they recognize that they are in a position to help others, but they are still very limited. They cannot act in perfect accordance with individual personalities. They have to develop further to become the most skilled of beings, a Buddha. So this is the point where they commit to becoming a Buddha so as to help others in the best way possible. And they do this because they've recognized the faults on their continuum that limit their ability to help others, as well as, whilst they have tremendous good qualities, those are still limited. So that also limits their impact they can have on others. Therefore, they strive to develop their qualities ever further so that they can be of ever more help to others. So this is where they generate bodhicitta, the determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others.
Dene la janju sem ke sewe che la janju sem ba cholam ba se cha dene cholam de la ya an janju sem be cholam chung na jing da chen bo se de pa ye wa ra sum chi go de sum che da dene an dang bo ke janju sem dang bo ke de cholam chung cha ro dene gom je go jin ni ba de ya go ro cha de da cholam jing cha ro dene gi an gom ba la dene an chi 야 동반이라 미비게 신내로 톱 되니게 즉 제대로 처럼 이제 첨보로 차고 와 신내에서 얼마다 라도라고 얼마다 신내라서 동반이 신내 톱되다지 첨보사제 되니게 토네 누 공부도 된다 총화의 징다 첨보사에 간절한다 냠링 짐바 되스 공부 야야를 줘도다 당보의 충우제 대대스 냠네 야게 친두 징제 다 졸람이야 줘야야 안 괜찮대 봐 니버들 레어도 첨보시기로 하다.
The point where uncontrived bodhicitta is generated, the practitioner's consciousness of uncontrived bodhicitta becomes the path of accumulation. And they enter into the first of the three parts of the path of accumulation, the small level. And they continue to train over the path of accumulation, progressing from the small to the middle to the great level. And when they're at the great level of the path of accumulation, so the third of the three levels, this is when they're approaching the boundary where their mind will be developed enough to cross over into the path of preparation. So by this point, they will have long since a realization of emptiness and will also be holding it with calm abiding, but not yet special meditative insight.
denege janju sem cholam ba dan denege janju sem cholam ba digi da 가르치거스네 다 동반이래 미비 신에도 신다 고절람 솔람 첨보 되기 동반이래 미비기 신에도 신에 뒤에 안에 동반이래 미비게다 그 학동 검제 다 동반이래 미비 실라 송제 토병도 되는 제도없어야 돼 가서 졸람세 토고 해지래 졸람 토바다 동반이래 미비 실라 송제 토바다 뒤 냠도다 졸람 토고 해지래
The Bodhisattva progressing along the path of accumulation, they will, when they get to the great level of the path of accumulation, and they will be approaching the path of preparation, so by now they certainly will be holding emptiness with calm abiding, trying to also engage in analytical meditation without losing calm abiding. So this is where they're trying to get to the point where they can meditate on emptiness with the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, because that, where the union of calm abiding and meditative insight realizes emptiness, is where the mind is suitable to be called that of the path of preparation.
Deso tonye la mibe shila sunre top sayor nyamane tamani karsane nyanduye ge tonlam top de tonye mibe shila sun top urwa chesa dene ge chanju semba solam ba de ge nyanduye trachom ba da ranye trachum be bu top chane ta chanju sem gyule ge ne chanju semba solam ba chungwa da jing da chimba chasan sunga ta tonye la mibe shila sunre top chare chesa ta kondu solam ne jolam ya duya la ge la 동매 미네 신의 실라 손제 공구고마 실라 손제 토비하게 된 실라 손제 마토바 토비 치도 아니 실라 손제 라톤 주고고 말가서 라톤 톱사르바 진짜 디네 자고도 안에 건조 가르치기라나 다 건조 선음유 초스까지 싸고 봐도 초람이 약서 초람 졸람 토바라 선음유 초체 까지 싸고 체지 유서로다 디네까지 싸고 싸찬네 디네 건 돈이라 냠버샤제 아니 졸람 톱도 그래 제래
As was presented earlier, there are those practitioners who progress through the paths of the Theravada and progress to the conclusion of individual liberation, become an arhat. Then according to the higher schools, they will eventually enter into the paths of the Mahayana. So those who enter into the paths of the Mahayana path of accumulation, do so through uncontrived bodhicitta. Prior to the generation of uncontrived bodhicitta, many of these soon-to-be bodhisattvas will have a realization of emptiness. Not all, but many will. Amongst those who have a realization of emptiness, there will be those who have a profound realization of emptiness because they have or previously attained the level of a Hinayana arhat, a Theravadan arhat. So they already have attained a direct realization of emptiness, so let alone the union of calm abiding and meditative insight inferentially realizing emptiness. So these practitioners, when they generate uncontrived bodhicitta and newly enter into the Mahayana path of accumulation, they will have already completed the Theravadan paths leading to the stage of either a hero or solitary realizer, arhat. So now, on the Mahayana path of accumulation, they don't need to put effort into realizing emptiness or the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. They've long done that. Their primary focus on the path of accumulation is the accumulation of merit. And their boundary to crossing into the path of preparation is not the realization, the inferential realization of emptiness with the union of calm abiding meditative insight, because that's long done. Their boundary, crossing point to the path of preparation, is when a sufficient amount of merit has been accumulated. Then they progress. But those who have not yet developed the union of calm abiding meditative insight on emptiness prior to the Mahayana path of accumulation, that, together with the accumulation of merit, is their focus on the path of accumulation. And when that is completed, they gain the inferential realization of emptiness with the union of calm abiding meditative insight. That is their boundary into the Mahayana path of preparation. So the difference is whether someone's what level of realization of emptiness has been achieved prior to the Mahayana path of accumulation.
이사다 benangan 저기 태진이 졸람 제와라 인지 미지 동니라 미비시라 손제도 톱고고와 동니라 미비시라 손제 마토바나 태싱이 줄럼 차고 말봐 디네 자다 남번에 뭐 지기야 장주스민 냠는 제도 소람바 되게 아니고 동반이 미비시라 손제 톱매반사 건조다 동반이 미비시라 손제 톱에 체도 시라 동반이 미신의 곰 텔레미베 하동 줍디아도 하동 줍네 되네 하동 톱여도 대신 줄럼 톱고리에 나래 다른 년도에 저준바다 란제 저준바디게 톱차내데 장주스민 냠는 제도게 건동이라 미비시라 손제 줍차완자 다디 동일의 미비실로스는데 사와 죽고야요 말이에요. 그 고랑줄에 냠내 여여 봐라. 지자 그 장바 여여 봐라. 되네자다 솔람이네가 소남이 소사고야 되게 진배 냠내 주전님을 되네게 소남이 소까지 사고 봐디 디사고데 사바이나 되네 그 절람 사차위 제라람사 절람 토구리 해서를 이제 또 동일의 미비실로스는데 죽고 말에 지자다 되네게 솔람네 절람네 야조야라 인지미지 동반이를 미비시라 손저고데 신이시 라도도 곰고메서와 소놈이 초대 걸 싸고에 차사바나 근데 동일을 미비시라 손도 여여 봐라다 다직 고야 직대 차사바나 되네 졸람 터주고 그래제
Even what's just been said, because there is quite some divergence. What is certain is that the entry point to the Mahayana path of accumulation is uncontrived bodhicitta. Where there is variety is at this point, when the practitioner becomes a bodhisattva, there can be a wide variety of realizations of emptiness that have already been attained, or even no realization of emptiness. Where there is no variety or variation is whether bodhicitta has been generated in an uncontrived manner, because that is the boundary into the path of accumulation, the Mahayana path of accumulation. But prior to that boundary, you'll have some practitioners who are a hira arat, who are now striving to generate uncontrived bodhicitta, or a solitary realizer arat. So both of them will have long since had a direct realization of emptiness. And there will be other practitioners who have never entered into the Theravadan paths, and they will have some level of realization of emptiness or none. But the boundary for all of them remains the same for the entry of the Mahayana path of accumulation, and that's uncontrived bodhicitta. On the path of accumulation, their focus, depending on their prior realization of emptiness, will vary, but their crossing to the Mahayana path of preparation, you can say, has the same two aspects. One is at least the realization, the inferential realization of emptiness with the union of calm abiding, as well as a sufficient accumulation of merit. Both of those are required. That being said, those practitioners who were already arhats will have this realization of emptiness long ago, because they the boundary to the path of preparation is an inferential realization of emptiness. They already have a direct realization. So their focus on the path of accumulation will be solely on accumulation of merit. When that is sufficient, together with the realization of emptiness, they will cross to the Mahayana path of preparation. Whereas bodhisattvas who newly attain a path, who have never entered into the Theravadan paths, will enter into the Mahayana path of accumulation and need to develop their realization of emptiness as well as an accumulation of merit. And when they have an inferential realization of emptiness, together with the union of calm abiding meditative insight and a large collection of merit, their continuum becomes suitable to be called the path of preparation.
Sanji yu gobang toba la, sanji yu gu la, ane chugu dang, longu dang, zhugu seji, gu yu chi yungu ruwa. Jisan chugu zhubiya ki gyuzo de karacha wasan, tate dongba yu dubi sherab di chagu wale, chugu zhubiya gyuzo. Kasi dongba yu dubi sherab di ki, tela tene, kari yonsane, nyomo ba sabon baksha da jeba bangbe, bangba de toya la, ane dongba yu dubi lo di ma gomba na top toya merwa. Jisan di ji da, ane dongba yu dubi ki, 다 산지 yu 동반이 도 이시 추고 니 ngo 주야라 다데 nga 주게 장주심 비교 동유 도 별로디 다디 냠nen체디 조 최고 그런 건 제보 조 최고 주비하게 규차고 해제래. 이나데 최고 주비하고. 디르와 상이규 이시추고 디제 상이규 이시추고다 이시추고다 내가 좀 오니고서 저러와 니구 주비에서 조디 가르치고 왔으네. 다 동바이도 비셔비 쇠는 이식이 초되게 지고래. 제가 그런 게 제보 가르쳐 가지고 와서 니 최고 주비하게 규치고래. 최고 주비하게 규치고래지. 나 상이기야 상이설에 상이구다 안에 상이구리야 안에 지금 차다 샤다 직직대 나소여 봐지 루와 상이구리야 드라마를 여러 바다 가서 나지 말와 상이구 캐셔 연된修学로 찬성보 숨주장이다 배제상보 기초사 되니기 연된 구연된 되게다 안에 당 신감 사제의 신감다 되니기 내다 되니기 주변에 규의 수지어서 쇠는错的结果레제 쇠는 错 제가 쇠는 错的기 상기구나는 수구 주변에 규조 지고 레제 수구 주변에 규조의 지고 제가 되니 인자 상기 고바 토발라 최고단 수구니가 토보고 인자 니 규디야 니가 직바 사고 마다 직직의 효사 직직 유효사 반에 니가 좀 두고 말아 매번 자지다 가브리엘 쇠는 错사 되네 이시게 초사 양선은 초사 이시에서 권위가 두신 림바진 사게 사세 고좀 쇼발을 마서 니가 직바 주서 누구 봐 되네 자 상이 쇠는 초사 되게 아주 진배념을 제바 수련념을 제바 쇠배념을 제바 디차상 쇠는 초사로 존중념을 디수기다 또 아니 이시주고 토발에 펜도고 규지고 되이나 조디 가르치고서는 수구디기 주부 수비 규차고 하지 마 초람즈마다 쇠는 错的기게 다 초람 갑이나 곰람간 초들라 냠nen제들라 동방이 되고 로고미아다 고미아들라 예식이 错了 그러와 다 진바다 수준의 쇠바 존재 냠nen제게 디 냠nen들라 쇠는 错了 그러와 제가 예식이 错 동방이 되고 로고미아디기 규조 그런 거 제보 가르치고 주서전에 최고를 做주고 해야지 이나다 구 수구 주게라 팬디 팬거 어디나 조 그런 거 최고 주고 해야지 다 쇠는 错的기 제보 조 가르치는 수구 주고 규칙고 해야지 이나 최고 주게라 팬거 어디 조 수구 주게 주고 규칙고 해 되네 자 쇠는 错的이시 소니가 니가 직바 채를 마선 직바 검도 주고 해야지
What we hear thus far is that the Bodhisattva will be striving to accumulate merit as well as meditating on emptiness. So throughout their training, both of these accumulations are required, the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. The accumulation of wisdom comes through meditating on emptiness. The accumulation of merit comes through the other practices of a bodhisattva, such as generosity, ethical restraint, patience, joyous perseverance. So these lead to these two accumulations, one of merit, one of wisdom. Both are required. And so therefore the bodhisattva will sometimes focus on the accumulation of one and sometimes the other, but both are required. They will not focus solely or primarily on one, but they will make sure both are being accumulated. And here in the text there's often an analogy of two wings of the bird are required in order to reach the destination of Buddhahood. And the reason why both of these accumulations are required, these two wings, is because these are the causes for the result of Buddhahood. A Buddha can be presented as having 2 bodies, 3 bodies, or 4 bodies. So if we look at 2 bodies, then it would be the Dharmakaya, the wisdom, the truth body, and the Rupakaya, the form body. So we have the wisdom body, the truth body, and the form body, the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. These have their own subdivisions. So looking first then at the truth body, that has the wisdom truth body and nature truth body. The wisdom truth body is the wisdom realizing emptiness of a Buddha. So therefore, the accumulation of wisdom and through the meditation on emptiness is what leads to the attainment of one of these two types of body. The truth body, which has its divisions of the wisdom truth body, which is that wisdom, and the nature truth body, the emptiness of that wisdom. So that's why a bodhisattva has to accumulate wisdom so as to achieve the body of the Buddha, which is the Dharmakaya, with its two subdivisions. But a Buddha has a second body, the form body, the Rupakaya, with its two subdivisions of the Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya, the Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya. These, the form body, or the Rupakaya, this comes from, is a result that comes from the accumulation of merit. Merit accumulated through generosity, ethics, and patience, and so forth. So therefore, the bodhisattva will need to accumulate both wisdom and merit in order to achieve the bodies of a Buddha. Both accumulations are needed, both wings of the bird, in order to achieve the goal of the bodies of a Buddha.
Da jolam de la ya jolam teshin jolam de zemo seba chusho se shi yorwa andu sine da denegi jolam gi nyamlen denegi komje da jolam gi ne hoso ya ji sonam yu chosa ya da dongban ni ga komya yongor sonam chosa wa yongor dongban yu komba yong ishi so ni ga chagorwa da dene jolam chusho se digi da jolam chusho tobyo de da nyomo ba deji nyumobu kunda sabone je panyage panthoyage panyage la gosugo da jeje da cholam chojo dige da ya dongbanye la nyambasha da nyambasha ne denige da de dong cholam chojo dongbanye la dongbanye topi denji chu nyambasha baro den toparo wa den nyambasha dene nyambasha ne du sen nyambasha ne dene ko dongbanye ngosum도 도여디 다 가사디 람디 태신 통람 발체 말람세 차래 다 가사디 태신 통람 바세 차바래 디가 소다 den중군다 방요 말에 den중 방요 말에 다 이내 가서 년보 개발해 den중군데 년보 den중군데 사본나 집에 년보도 길을 개발 발체 말람 개발해 다 디가 소다 바 통람 발체 말람 토바래 최고권조 내가래 대한서 남중오 집에 최고 토바래 마도 고딩용오 집에 최고 저 토비어 말에 디가 소 대신 안중년 되다 직발면에
When the Mahayana path of preparation is achieved, it's done so, as was said, when emptiness is inferentially realized with the union of meditative insight and calm abiding, as well as this large store of merit that has been accumulated. And now from here, the presentation is very similar to what we heard previously for the Tibetan practitioners. Having achieved the path of accumulation, the practitioner, in this case the bodhisattva, progresses through the 4 levels of the path of preparation: heat, peak, forbearance, and supreme mundane dharma. They progress through these 4 levels, and when they reach the point, whilst they are abiding in, or whilst they have attained the 4th level of the path of preparation, that of supreme mundane dharma, at one point they will enter into the final meditative equipoise of the path of preparation. They'll realize emptiness just like they have done so many times, via or by means of a meaning generality, and realize emptiness with the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So this they've been doing for an extensive period, from the attainment of the path of preparation. But this time, they will have accumulated sufficient merit and wisdom that their wisdom, inferentially realizing emptiness, is now able to realize emptiness directly, without the need of a meaning generality. And here, just like we heard previously, the path of seeing is achieved. But this is the Mahayana path of seeing. But nevertheless, with the attainment of the path of seeing, its entry point is the direct realization of emptiness. This wisdom that is directly realizing emptiness is an unobstructed path, an unobstructed path of the path of seeing. It is an illustration of the Dharma jewel, but only part of the Dharma jewel, a true path. And it is the direct antidote to the acquired afflictions and their seeds. So this is now the first moment of the path of seeing, and the presentation is the same as for the Tibetan practitioners. In this first moment, the unobstructed path of the path of seeing is achieved, which is a true path and a Dharma jewel, and it's the direct antidote to the acquired afflictions and their seeds. But as these have not yet been abandoned, they haven't yet achieved the second part of the Dharma jewel, true cessations. So this too is the same as for the Tibetan practitioner, according to the Mahayana tenets.
Jizada Sanji Kobo Tobala, Gaishin Jamil Sumji Sosa or Eshirwa, Sumsa Sosa Homsa, that Solam Tolam Toyodu, when you Solam that teaching you Solam the Jolam Yenegasu, Gaishin Jamichi Sosa Goresh, Jizan Tolam Toyodu, Gaishin Jamichi Sosa, Gaishin Jami, Tangbodi Sosa, Savares, Sosares. Jamie Dangbo Cho来的，就像同他们投票队，这些当面张面说明呢，当波的错差完的，的错的啥也的搞说，叫他们那错了明了是那个的。
For the Bodhisattva to attain Buddhahood, extensive merit needs to be accumulated. Countless great eons of merit need to be accumulated. Now at the point of where they attain the Mahayana path of seeing, generating the unobstructed path of the Mahayana path of seeing, this is the point where the first of the three accumulations of merit and wisdom has been attained. So this we see at the final line of the first bullet point. When the exalted wisdom of the first Mahayana ground is attained, and the first accumulation of merit and wisdom amassed over a countless great eon is completed. So the first of three is now accumulated. The second bullet point. Thereafter, as explained previously, the realization of true cessations, the abandonment of afflicted minds such as acquired true grasping, begins.
Anda는 가르치베세다 데네기 통람 발세 말람 디 토네 냠바 동방이나 냠바 발세 말람 계산에 데네 냠바 샤 신병안에 데네 텐중 군다 방베게 뉴바 방베게 남조람세 방요도 데네 델레 민갈라고선 대신이라 텐신 군다 사보나 집에 냠보 방마 마방아체 냠보 치인데라 발세 말람죠 다디마디 콤제 콤두 샤나 무디 콤제데 가zam직리아 텐중구다 샤사 사보나 제바 시장 빵도 아니 바신 데네기 람데레 민갈라르스네 동방이나 냠바시가 람데레 갈라르스네 통람 남조람 태신 통람 남조람 민 넘버 조여 람세데 대신 요모보 군다 데레야 빵차와 조와레스 남조람세 지자 남조람 토요도 다 디거소 아니 텐중군다 빵비 고데냐 토브레 다 디거소 대 최고죠 빵비디 비고 고데 용어기 최고죠 대 토버레 네 The
second bullet point will be the same presentation as we heard, I think, last night. The only difference being here, the uncontrived bodhicitta, therefore it's a Mahayana path, but otherwise the presentation is the same. Having achieved the Mahayana path of seeing, first moment is an unobstructed path, a true path, and the Dharma jewel. And it is the direct antidote to the acquired afflictions. Then, when in that session, the acquired afflictions, together with their seeds, have been abandoned, then the consciousness is no longer called the unobstructed path of the Mahayana path of seeing, but the liberated path of the Mahayana path of seeing. And now the first true cessation has been achieved, the true cessation of having abandoned their quiet afflictions and their seeds. And now the Dharma jewel, this mind, which is the Dharma jewel, has both components of the initial true path and now the initial true cessation.
That Nyambra Shade Chila, Lamito, Sumgigo, Tangbo Nyambra Shade, Jolam Chojo, Tombanila, Nyambra Shapi, Jolam Chojo, Tombanila, Nyambra Shell, Lodi, Toparewa, Kotoparewa, Tony Dunjusul, Topare, Nyambra Shade. Then Ma Nyambra Shanea, Jinako, Competition, Teshin Tolam Barshamalam, Tomban was Dobachasa, Teshin Tolam Barshamalam Chason. That dinner do say Barshamalam do come Kansam Jilla, Dinzuku da Pompe Pang, Namdrolam, Tish Tola Namdrolam Char. Dinner de called Lam Ming Dana Chan Shabana, Jolam, Church Yamja Sheche, then Teshin Tolam Barshamalam, Teshin Tola Namdrolams in the Lam Sum Mido, Sum Yamsha Tunchi, or Yamsha Shatan Chilla, Tunchi to Sine, Sum Kigo Ege.
This is, for the practitioner, quite an eventful meditative equipoise. So in a single meditative equipoise, so one session, they enter into meditative equipoise, realize emptiness conceptually, once again. So this consciousness is a path of preparation, in particular, the fourth level, the supreme mundane Dharma of the path of preparation, that consciousness. Now, due to the accumulations of merit and wisdom, in that same meditative equipoise, the emptiness is now, which was a moment ago realized by means of the meaning generalities, now realized directly. And that consciousness, now directly realizing emptiness, is now an unobstructed path of the Mahayana path of seeing. So this is, in the same meditation, the second path that has been achieved. The first path was, this consciousness was a path of supreme mundane qualities. And now in the second part, it is an unobstructed path of the Mahayana path of seeing. The meditation continues, and the process of abandoning their quiet afflictions and their seeds continues and is completed. And then this consciousness now is called a liberated path of the Mahayana path of seeing. So in this one meditation session, there have been three different paths. The first being a path of preparation, the second being unobstructed path of the path of seeing, and the third being the liberated path of the path of seeing.
That then Tolam Namdrolam, Teshin Tolam Namdrolam, Topse Jela, that dine, that's who Jetoblishan, Sushan, that are Sonam Society, that's Sonam Society. It's not that Sonam Society, Nala, and the Jetu Sushan, that Jimbin Yamla, Sutin Yamlanjia, Suben Yamlanjia, Shanlia, Chu, Dea, Chu, Sonyada, and the Chief Sosanagi Gawa, Garusaya, Mutushe Sayada, and Gabrielia, Gansa, Dame Bala, Yambashava, Donila, Yambashava, Yungore, the negative, that's Sonami Society, so that's Sonami Society or Dilla, Jetublu Sushan Savage.
So after this rather consequential meditation, the now Arya Bodhisattva will arise from meditative equipoise and have the exalted wisdom of subsequent attainment, and will now go about the accumulation of merit, practice of generosity such as teaching the Dharma, ethical restraint, patience, and so forth. And they may also enter into meditation on emptiness, but their primary activity in subsequent attainment is that of the accumulation of merit.
Then that Tonlam Toy no changes about Papa Chasarva. Jisa that Papa Chas the Ji Tonlam Madu Vinyela Solam na Jolam ye Nagapsu Pumbo de Yedanga Jugi Leda Numo Ongishu Puri, Nayata Yedigade. Jisa Solam Bada, Solam Badige, Nyamagi, Kiwi, le pa chinu ba shu sa yo ba na dini le yi wong gi ani ha ja ani ngan do la nga chik tun do le kya wa len ba yung go re ani nya wa da yi da le kya wa len ba si ba zam le she de chang shu sem ba cho lam ba la di yung go re bene da yin ne nya wa le kya wa len ba ne 균이 우대가 말스 쭉 징냐마다 레녀와 인지미지 끼어고에 레지 녜베 레지 사서바네 딜레디 바샤 메바 샤투 메바나 인지미지 곧녀와 끼어 랭고 끼어 이네 끼어 쭉 균이 해요 말해서 되고 말해래 배낭하는 저기디 폴리지마 살마 다반 람삼 부셔는 많이 박스 투선 양지 야파르 그래 디나신 전시 셈바디게 녀와 끼어 랭베네 니코 레다 녀모 옹녀와 끼어lên 큐스마 끼어래 남사야 야직마 된마 끼어래 공부소로 그래 제는 그 야야 대밀야기 하다 밀 술기 하다 밀 끼어lên 제 되네 끼어래 두고 그래 제래
When the bodhisattva realizes emptiness directly, they become an Arya being, a noble being. Prior to this, when they were on the path of preparation, and prior to that, the path of accumulation, they were not an Arya being, but an ordinary being, an ordinary bodhisattva. So whilst being an ordinary bodhisattva, there was always the possibility that they would take rebirth in the lower realms. And whilst this existed as a possibility, rebirth in the lower realms would not be the same as if we were reborn there, in that the bodhisattva's rebirth in the lower realms would be likened to dropping a ball, which immediately, when touching the ground, would bounce back up. So too, should an ordinary bodhisattva take rebirth in the lower realms, their duration there would be momentary, and they would be born out of the lower realms. And then in addition to that, ordinary bodhisattvas, they have ordinary contaminated aggregates, just like we do, aggregates which acquired due to the afflictions. So this is another feature of ordinary bodhisattvas, non-Arya bodhisattvas.
kambanala gojeb shen chilo don tuya mara ka shen do tuya mara ani ko pasu jobe ne anji ke namro da modra dan sam ji den de dran ma lam san le tuya mara wa da janju sem ba pa ba thonglam thop chana I lü di yi gi ra ju lü di sem na shen jin kang be de zik ba da jin ne kang ge ga yo ma le che le ka wa da zhou tu sem ba sam ba zam ji de le le tu ge le che le da be na zo ya ga zhou sam de nam sa ni sem be sam ba zam bi pa de tu ge chi de lü de yi na shen le se che sa su gi ba la yi na ji lü su yi la ji lü se gyu zhou ge le ding yi zhen gong be to bi dong ba ni gong be to bi di gyu zhou ge le che na de ne za da 당한조이나 당한조이 레년 뭐 풍부하디나 당보 충충을 침불 야라 쳐지 마닝버제 간고 차로 저러와 어딜라 다 정신스면 파부 유디들 딘나진 간고 차요 말이지 간고 차요 말에 라왕 한조의 간고 차 디시기 메스나 라왕 메시려 여러와 어디니게 라왕 메 시야 돼요 말이지 제가 가와다 나와다 치와서 나 수분 나기도 지 나기도 돼 나요 말이지 제가 정신스면 파부 톱선을 류디래 가와요 말에 나와요 말에 라와메 바스고다 가와다 나와다 치와세 동아기네요 말 뒤쳐서메 봐 스폰서레서 그래 가와다 나와다 치와 아니 진짜 끼와메로 하데 치와메는 끼와메로 하데 내다니 뭐 옹이 끼와서 그렇다 근데 레뉴 옹이 시시고 차산티 세상
That was briefly that segment. Immediately previous segment was about the ordinary bodhisattvas, those on the Mahayana paths of accumulation and preparation. When they attain the Arya paths of bodhisattvas, from in the moment they achieve the realization of emptiness, direct realization of emptiness, their body changes. Prior to this, their body was like ours, and that was a true suffering. It was acquired due to contaminated common afflictions. Now, they attain, so it's, as far as I know, always translated as a mental body. Literally, it's a body in the nature of the mind. So this is achieved in the moment that a bodhisattva realizes emptiness directly. Such a body can travel anywhere. Should the Arya Bodhisattva wish to go to India, they do not need a car to get to the airport in an aeroplane. They would just by thinking of going to India, they would be there. Moreover, this body it does not age, it's not subject to illness nor death, because now uncontrolled rebirth in samsara has ceased. Therefore, with uncontrolled rebirth ceasing, there will be no aging, sickness, or death. All of this is attained when a bodhisattva realizes emptiness directly.
Now, and then young, then she mokoronga some shindu, the koronga some shindu, Jawalina, and the Kowale Jawalim, Mili Jawalemba, Hale Jawalemba, and the Dundrola Jawalemba, Kawaj, Pando, Karayubena, Delia, Pando Che, Dundala, Koronga some shindu Jawali to Jawale, Yores. They laid on you that the Lenu Wongi, Rawan Meba, Nazu Dele Kimes and Rawan Meba Legi Wongi Jawalingorova, Janisembala, Denigi Meres. 다전신 파발 다이는 그런 삼신도 그런 게 강존에 될야 아니 현존주의 빼직 벤 눈로지 개발된지 현존주의야 망고질 판도 계시무지 두고나 아니 그 눈로지 개발된 바 그런 삼신도 눈로 개발된 바다 아니 밀레 개발할 개발된 바 그런 삼신도 개발된 바 용을 해서 기토 아니 그런 디나신지 깨게 류린도 아 탈바토요 말하더니 말이 이내 그런 라왕 몇 바퀴 wal래요 말도 그런 게 그런 네 바퀴는 깨발해야지 라왕도 돈에 깨발린 거로 와다.
So the Arya Bodhisattva, being precise, we're only talking about Arya Bodhisattvas now, not ordinary Bodhisattvas or non-Bodhisattva Aryas. Theravada Aryas. So the Arya Bodhisattva will never again take uncontrolled rebirth in samsara. However, due to the power of their intention, their explicit intention, they can and will take rebirth amongst samsaric beings in order to benefit. So therefore, an Arya Bodhisattva will choose to be reborn in such a place or in such a realm, perhaps amongst animals, amongst humans, in order to be of benefit to them. But that will be the result of an explicit intention. For us, it's completely different. We are not reborn where we intend to be, through the power of our intention, but through the power of our contaminated karma. An Arya Bodhisattva will still be born amongst samsaric beings or beings bound in samsara, but solely due to the power of their intention to benefit.
Dene nyomobe netuwa marase. Dade ngaranzo lene nyomobe nigora döshake kienjene ngaranzo jikanga jayada shala kanga jige yungoro nyomobe nigorwa. Pabala nyomobe netuwa marese, nigo marese. Jezada janshusema paba digi nyomobe digi shendun jibigi beju dangtu rese. Dangana shendun jibigi yalaje pandoje shenle pandoje dondala nyomobe digi beju dangtu rese.
A further way, Arya Bodhisattvas are remarkably different from all other non-Arya beings, is that the afflictions cannot harm them. We know from our own experience afflictions do harm us, but an Arya Bodhisattva cannot be harmed by the afflictions. Therefore, they can make use of the afflictions to be of benefit to others.
Dana janshusema papa topsadine ko gijijilya jubal masum juba gyatamba döndugres juba gyatamba juba gyatya la soba denige sanji ge sing sanji yesa sing gyatamba dene pe jodugres then Sanye Jetu, the Negi, a Koran, and the Jiki Juba Jatuya Soba, Sanye Sing, Pa Jiki Gala Soba, Petuala Soba. The Negi that you end the Babo Mebajikta is Yovan said that Sanye go Juba Jatan, but the Juba Jatan, but doing Digi, and the Juba Relia, Kor. And the court bottom of that in the church, that the Nigi, Tony, and Bed Chanty Gasham, to go what Jasimba, Papa Govatos and Juba Jatamba Dungeon, and the Jatamba Hingazagala page and the Jig Decolia, Duja Mongolia Church, the Nigi Michigi Tumbaza, Mangotine, Mangodi Dungeon, Mangoshujan, Tarbelamle. Lam Yamne, Jam Yamni Chechuada, gave us to give a bottom of us. I go what the negated Jashimbo give us. The next Sanyi, Shin Sanyi, Bendigo in the Dharms, Yam shooting on the door tomorrow. She's going to some bats and meet the negative the Lama, Sanyi Yosepa change, and this in the church, you are lost over the Denegi Hajik, Yamne go up to sled. The negator, you and then some you make about bottom of a good age, the judges and Satan Botoga.
The qualities of Arya Bodhisattvas are immense, in fact, quite inconceivable for us. So that with the attainment of the Arya paths, from that moment, an Arya Bodhisattva can emanate, or will emanate, have 100 emanations. And how would an Arya Bodhisattva utilize these 100 emanations? On so many ways. They can send emanations to the Pure Lands of individual Buddhas to make offerings, receive teachings. They can, the emanations can go and teach and guide sentient beings in how to abandon afflictions, accumulate, generate compassion, and so forth. So in these ways of great benefit, immediately the Arya Bodhisattva's emanations will spread, accumulating vast stores of merit, aiding the rapid spiritual development of the Arya Bodhisattva.
Manzo kor ku cheje kor ku ane sum chungo chembo jing chungo se da chembo de la ya kor sum jing de la kor sum de chembo de la kor chungo de la kor sum je de ri pangbe ge ko den re to go ro ji za de ne za de ma ngon go den ngon de ji bi go chu la de tong la nam zhe lam tong de nyomo bo kun da ba bi go den to ba ro wa de ne go chu ne de ne ka sa ma da sa dun gi ne ga su 장매 니비 초소 세지 대시 원도 집에 고축세죠 조축세데 통람 토요 남절람 토요 고된 군다범 고된 토바 다 고축바래 다 되네야 고된 마마마 토야디 니는 요모바 체리 주좀 바베 고된 굴리기로 되네 토야 고축네 네가 대바 토고스네 사준비 봐도 사준바네 사제바 토병도 녀모바 차상 방도 거리야지 사준 마다 사준다도 다 사당보 니바 숨바시바가 버주부 듬바텔라 마다베 사준다고 그래 대가를 마다 봐서 녀모바 마방 봐래 제자다 녀모 마방 봐래 제텔밍 마다 봐서 제자다 녀모바 방네 사준비 내가서 봐주 지리 다 사제바 토에도 녀모바 차상 방도 그래 자제 디가 소다 가르스는 초가신 잠에 초디 초니버를 사고 그래 제래
Looking again at the second bullet point, thereafter, as explained previously, the realization of true cessations, the abandonment of afflicted minds such as acquired true grasping begins. So with the attainment of the Mahayana path of seeing, as with the Tibetan path of seeing, here initially the true path that is the direct antidote to abandoning the acquired afflictions together with their seeds is attained, and when that liberated path is attained, then those acquired afflictions and their seeds have now been abandoned, and that true cessation has been attained. So here in this first line, so we see acquired true grasping. That refers to what is abandoned on the path of seeing. And the term begins. This shows that, as we heard earlier, there are 9 levels of... So the word begins shows, as we heard earlier, that in addition to the acquired afflictions, there are also the innate afflictions which are to be abandoned subsequently to the prior abandonment of the acquired afflictions. And these innate afflictions, as we heard earlier, have 9 levels. 3 relating to great, 3 relating to middle, 3 relating to small. So the same division as we heard earlier. So there are these 9 levels of afflictions which are of innate afflictions, which now subsequent or following the abandonment of the acquired afflictions begins. And it begins with, now the third bullet point, whilst abiding on the 7 impure grounds, the second accumulation of merit and wisdom is amassed over a second countless greater eon. So again, I commented on part of this sentence, but it relates to the next sentence as well. We see 7 impure grounds, and in the next bullet point, 3 pure grounds. The 7, whilst the bodhisattva is abiding on the 7 pure grounds, the 7 impure grounds, these grounds, which are consciousnesses, are all on the path of meditation, and they are impure because the acquired innate afflictions together with their seeds are being abandoned. They haven't been abandoned completely yet. So therefore, because the afflictions haven't yet been abandoned, these 7 grounds are impure. When the afflictions are together with their seeds, the innate afflictions together with their seeds are completely abandoned, that's the attainment of the 8th of the 10 grounds. And from the 8th, 9th and 10th, these are the pure grounds. Pure because the afflictions together with their seeds have been completely abandoned. So here, now having abandoned the acquired afflictions and their seeds, the process continues with starting to abandon the innate afflictions together with their seeds across the 7 impure grounds.
In that second bullet point on page 26, where it says the abandonment of afflicted minds, such as acquired true grasping, begins, is that meant to be innate true grasping there?
I think this should be acquired. Let me just read here.
Because I thought it's talking about the stage after the...
No, it is acquired. So this is referring to the path of seeing.
Is it?
But I'll just confirm. It says the word acquired, but I'll just confirm. Then kong tycker yini yekyo notol yomare kasi shupu shotang dukjure chik chigrup nipa de kuntak segere yini denzin kuntak yina mina dua tangso kasi kong jena de kari sanipa yinsare yini kong la mare di tonglam tanda lepsong jetsang kuntak segere
de dunze kuntak pangpegi ko dense kuntak se de
tonglam
tonglam kapsigoro.
Yeah, so Genna just confirmed that this, what we have here. So the second bullet point is referring to the attainment of the path of seeing, but the begins shows that more is about to come, and that will be the acquired.
So the begins...
What has begun now is that the afflictions have begun to be abandoned, beginning with the acquired, and what will follow, it's not said here, what will follow is in the next bullet point, the innate. But that word isn't here.
So the begins refers to the innate ones?
Begins refers to afflictions.
Afflictions
and what,
of any type? Of either type?
Of both types, starting with the acquired.
Okay.
Okay. The innate isn't mentioned in the text, but that would be in the third bullet point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Alright, that dinma salam gi jodang gi rimba da jigmini nyandwe dalam rangi gi lam joda de antawa chimpi gi lam salam gi rimba an cholam jolam tholam de kane kane topor se de di ma chi shubare ane jeramawa da dode be gi joda dine tugore se da anji khabaru chi umarang gi bada de su ume be joda dine si khabaru de se chi dinade de segoras min tingi de chasanji Dus gevarochik dus lavare. Karsane dedi jenga salami sudi shingoade gechimure. Ungo goyade gumburwa. Chisa denegi de solamna jolamna denia gum chik rimba nyamne gone drothada chishede goyade gumbure. Chisa denesa miduschine shubare. Chisa denesa da Gabriel Yanjik order Jimbati Mogoche, Nyobdora Cha Sigrid, in a Nyobdo Magona, Gidina Goyamara, Nyago of Ragiomara, Dinza, Madusi Shushavana, and Chazanjik Sosuranjik to go up Shiratu Rasamchi by Shubare. She's a Sangi Chimney, the Higarson, Sangi, Sheji, Tradi, and Jidin Diana, Shindu Gwen said. Sangi Sheji Tradi, and Jidin Diana, Shindu Gwen, Sangi Chimney Summer. Sangi Shibi, Tiki, Amcholo Goya, the Jidin, Shindu Gobushure, Jizadi, Sarjikoa, the Gawasan Bushure, Sangi Shibi Traju Goba, Samia, Gawasan Bores, Jidan Sangi Shibi Tradia, Goya, the Shindu Gombure. The DJ or the Simjan Dudo, Kazeo, the Sangi Shibi Dress at 60 Kumarwa, the Goya Mara, and dinner as a Mio Bene. Chögi nyamlen jedaji nyamlen jegajina ane sangi da chö se chi ku ma do chögi to da nyamlen jeda de dine samada da sangi se de chi ko ya marwa jeza dine sa sangi chi bi chi di ko ya de shin do ne kombu re jeza dine sa chi ko wa zamgi ga wa sang bo shu re song ko wa dina shin da lam nyamlen rimba dine yong re se de dine dele shin do komba cha za an dina shin da do shin ma shu sha wa na ane chi ge
This weekend we continued where we finished last time, which is looking at the paths and grounds of the three lineages or types of practitioners, the hearers and solitary realizers, which are included amongst the Tibetans, and the bodhisattvas, the practitioners of the Mahayana. And we also looked at the presentation of the two lower schools, the Vaibhashika, and the upper school of the Madhyamaka, and the Chittamajan school, which is divided and straddles both. So we looked at all of that. So I've chosen to give quite an extensive presentation of the paths and grounds, because it's something that is not taught very common. But knowing this is very useful. The teachings we generally hear are about how to attain a path. But here we look at how one progresses along the various paths, or develops the various paths in one's continuum, and progresses towards liberation and enlightenment in this way. And if you think about it, in our own lives, the opportunity to hear teachings on the paths and grounds that lead to the attainment of liberation and enlightenment, we've hardly met this. And if we think more broadly, amongst all the varying beings, how many in their present life have even heard the word Buddha? And amongst those very few humans who have heard the word Buddha, how many of them have ever heard about the paths and grounds, how to attain them and how to progress? So this teaching is really not given very often. So I thought it's useful to utilize our opportunity together to give a fairly extensive presentation, looking at both looking at all three lineages of practitioner, hero, solitary realizer, bodhisattva, as well as the differing presentations of the lower and upper philosophical schools.
Sanji Kova Toku, Chisa Jensim Yamne Jabala, Solam Basa, Gula Tadiki, Dundala, Tanzim Jatamchi, Sanjo Kova Toku, Show, Sibi, somebody, and the Yanda Jangur, the Jambala, Namba Jam Ninji, Chisa Simjan, Namba Simjan, Devata Dena, Simbi Jamjescom, the Simjan, the Dunga and Jawu to Strana, Nijicom, the Simjan, the Dunga and Java, and did. Kori dunga taji join taba tamji go Toba Jeba de Nji Yin se began to Lasam de Samdang, Dine di dondala, di zangye simje tamchisan yokoba tobar chigi, se tobar sho, sembe samla, du sine nga zu yane, yandu du she samdana, dine nga zu samla diye, dos ya nuba cher chen, ane nimi chigi simje tamchisan yokoba tobar sho, sembe samba di, jyoma mayimbe ke tuba ina, da janju semba nga zu ina, janju semba cha rukurwa, da janju semba cha samba ina, dine ya choyare, dine zada nga zu ngā rā dā dīgī tōne ngā rā labjī lī ngā rā nyamlā chī huayā dī ngā rā chāsā dā rāshīn chāsā jīgbā rī chāsā dā ngā rā yā jāmbā gōmyā dā nīñjī gōmyā dīn mā chī nī lāsam gōm dīn simchā dā sāñyū gōmā tōpar shū sīmbī kī nī sam dā yā nī yā dō dī jāngdōr rō lī yā jāngdōr chī huayā dī dā ngā rā chāsā kī dā dī lopshāng chī bī kī dā jī gōl mā sā dī nī chī chī huayā chā gōr wā dī ngā rā dū sī rī dā
We all have, at the very least, an aspiration to attain the paths of a bodhisattva. This aspiration itself, whilst perhaps not of much strength, is something of great value, and we should nurture it, take care of it, strengthen it. And the way to do so is to meditate on the way that has been presented to you many times, reflecting on the sufferings of samsara in their entirety, as well as their origins, and including in this meditation the understanding that this is the position I myself am in, and so too are all other ordinary suffering beings. We have this as our basis, or our foundation, and as we develop an ever more determined ever greater determination to gain freedom from suffering, we keep at the forefront of our motivation, this is where I am suffering, I want to attain freedom, as do all other beings. Then, as we are developing our determination to gain freedom, we also utilize that as the basis to develop love and compassion for others, as well as the following minds of universal responsibility and bodhicitta. So that when the point comes that we do develop a determination to gain freedom from suffering, we readily can apply this, independent on all the preceding causes to the situation of mother sentient beings. And thereby we can much more rapidly develop actual bodhicitta. Because training in this way leads to the attainment of the paths of a bodhisattva. And it is not beyond any of us to arise as a bodhisattva. We all have the capacity to do that. What is required is to train repeatedly over a sustained period in the way that is presented. So with that as our homework, that we can conclude here for this week. So thank you very much.